loving the Mass, loving praying. I just remember meeting so many different priests, especially our pastor at the time, Monsignor Guillon, was a very strong priest. He was a very smart man, and he had a strong will. And I aspired to be like that. That was the first time I probably was introduced to that attraction to the priesthood. The desire to go to seminary is just so on fire for me. I'm not, sure where God's leading me and what the next few years of my life will look like, but I know as long as I trust in Him and trust the process and trust in His goodness, that the wait that I'm in right now is so worth it. And praise be God for the men that He chooses to enter the seminary to discern priesthood. I'm Taylen Thomas from Mandan, North Dakota. My home parish is Spirit of Life Church in Mandan. My vocation story kind of started at a young age, at Spirit of Life actually. As a young kid, I remember my parents having very busy careers. They still do, but them just being super busy with their job, their work life, everything like that. And for much of my life, I've just aspired to be just like my parents, have a really good work ethic, know many people within the community, things like that, and just have a rich faith. My parents had a very rich faith, and in kind of all of their busyness of their careers and their lives, faith was always the most important. They had to put many things on hold that I know stressed them out just so that they could take their two boys to Mass, to different, various events within the church. They were very involved in the church, and I just remember my eyes being open to that as a young kid. They were so busy with everything they had going on, but faith was just the priority in their marriage and in the way they raised their kids. But with their very busy lives, sometimes we would go to the farm with my grandparents, and I give credit to where I am today and the way that I love God to my grandparents as well. I feel both of them are saints in my life. The way that kind of they shared their faith with me, the way that they raised their family. Just attending Mass with them as well was a huge blessing for me at a young age. So I just always had that strong, firm foundation in faith from a young kid. Or as a young kid, never questioned, if we would go to Mass. It just was sometimes what Mass we would go to, things like that. So that led me into, elementary school, things like that. Definitely wasn't the peak of my life. I didn't have many friends. I went to a tough elementary school. It was hard for me to make friends, just kind of the person I was and the culture of the school. And I just remember, that there were many days that felt very lonely. There were many times where I didn't have a friend to go play with at recess. But I feel like looking back on those years, I had such peace because I had a great family at home who supported me and loved me, and I had a strong faith. Just because I didn't have many friends to hang out with when my parents would be at work and, my older brother was maybe busy, I would go to the Spirit of Life outreach program and volunteer my time there just to kind of give back at my parish. And that led to me kind of working in the summers full time. I actually was blessed to, she's my now aunt, she was the outreach supervisor. She had a huge impact on my life. And she just always invited me to come help out. I always joke because many of my best friends in that time were probably close to 70 years older than I was, but they were just such devout, faithful people who took me in and let me volunteer. I met many, poor people who needed food, and to just be that vessel, to be able to give them a box of food. They were so grateful, and that taught me how to be grateful for everything God bestows on me, the family He gives me, the friends He gives me, the things and pleasures that I have in life. But elementary school was difficult. And so I spent a lot of time there volunteering. And that led me to just being in the church a lot, going to daily mass at a very young age, and just appreciating the mass, loving praying. I just remember meeting so many different priests, especially our pastor at the time, Monsignor Guillen, was a very strong priest. He was a very smart man, and he had a strong will. And I aspired to be like that. That was the first time I probably was introduced to that attraction to the priesthood. And with that too, I got to meet many Carmelite sisters who came from India, and then many seminarians who had an assignment at Spirit of Life at that time. Moving into middle school, things got better. I started to, gain those friendships that I kind of was missing in elementary school. Met some of my greatest friends that I'm still friends with today, and that I pray I'll always be close with. But I still had that desire to be in the church in the summer times and volunteering my time. And I met, even more great people as I became older and maybe wiser. I learned how to, love prayer and to pass it on to other people. So I remember just praying with the people who would come and get a food basket. And some of the office people would entrust me at 15 years old to just pray with people. And I just remember being so fulfilled by praying with somebody and allowing them to receive the love that Jesus, gives to me. Moving into high school then, I think is where things started to become rocky. I kind of had always desired to have friends, to be known, things like that. And I think that was always an absence in my life. And so I really, sought that in high school. I went to a public high school. I kind of instantly became known, which was a desire of mine for so long. I started to become more known. I started to become, somebody who was very involved in, whether it were sporting events or clubs, things like that. Just kind of wanted to be the face, the center of everything in Mandan High School. And I feel like I did a fairly good job of that. But, as kind of that knownness came to me, as people started to know my name, and I started to become very involved, I very much became wrapped in that world of, how do I, do more? How do I make my name more known to people? How do I be on everybody's good side? How do I make people laugh, right? And throughout that, I started to really live for that. That kind of became my idol in life, that I had, the quantity of friends over the quality of friends. And I guess I wasn't good at multitasking in that time. I just became a very kind of ashamed of my faith, things like that. I stopped going, to the food pantry to volunteer my time because there were better things to do with friends, right? I was a junior in high school when COVID hit. And that just led to a lot of loneliness of being separated from friends. And I think kind of as COVID became less severe and we were introduced to the world more is when I really kind of took that initiative to make myself known again. And that led me to kind of like the party crowd, going out on the weekends, just doing unsafe things for my soul, pretty much. Just kind of giving my soul away to the world, just so that the world would know me better. And in that process, I came to know God less. And that was the priority of me picking where I was going to go to school, was how would I be most known? I prioritized that welcome week as soon as I got to college because it's something that I was told I should do. And so I prioritized, I'm going to go out to every single event. I'm going to go to every party that there is and just make my name in this college. And again, that's kind of what I did. I went to college. I was prioritizing that worldly life. And I went to mass on the weekends because I knew it, my parents would be very disappointed if I didn't. But I didn't take that upon myself to do anything further than that. And at mass even, I wasn't really involved in it. I was just there physically instead of actually spiritually receiving the sacraments. And then, kind of as that life I continued to live, it became one day just so not fulfilling. My heart just felt so empty. I had felt like my family didn't even know who I was anymore, that I wasn't known, which was a desire of mine. And I just felt so lost, so empty. And kind of like the prodigal son was welcomed home. I remember just talking with my parents and, getting some good guidance from such wise people. Ultimately, I had went back to my parish and just knelt before the tabernacle. I had a key fob that was given to me by the grace of God to go on a very late evening. I remember it was in the middle of winter, close to Christmas time. I just went before the tabernacle in a church that was, empty, and I just knelt before it. And I kind of just reintroduced myself to the person that I knew lived in that tabernacle, and just remember asking him to fill me with the pleasures that I once had. And so in that moment, I knew that I needed to take my life in a different direction. I knew I was welcome to do that. And so ultimately, I was led to the University of Mary, and I chose to go there my sophomore year of college, where I studied chemistry. So it was a pretty difficult major to get into, but I wanted to put the work in. Big dreams of going to graduate school to pursue something in the medical field. I started studying for the medical college acceptance test, which was very rigorous, but I was determined to do that and to keep faith on my side. And many hard tests led to many prayers. Many nights of studying led to lots of surrender to God. God, be with me while I take this test. And in that surrendering, God opened my heart to a different path, a different direction. My mom and I had went to tour one of my dream schools that I was working so hard to get into, something that I had a desire to go to for so long. As I was walking those halls, I just felt no desire for it. I just felt a desire to stand, to kneel, to sit, whatever I would do in front of that tabernacle. I remember being in front of that tabernacle, and I was alone physically, but it felt like there was somebody sitting right next to me, taking my hand and guiding me along. And so I just remembered that as I was touring that school, and I told my mom on the plane, I had said, this isn't where I'm being called to anymore. I still wasn't even exactly sure I was being called to seminary, but I just knew it wasn't that in that moment. And so I continued to pray. I'm somebody who's very hard to share my thoughts. I don't like to do it all the time. And ultimately, I prayed, I surrendered it, which led me to Father Jordan Dosh's office, where I just kind of told him everything. I told him those desires, that love. I was very involved within the search program of the Bismarck Diocese at that time. And I give credit to all of those formators in that program for helping me to discern that call. They were so supportive in wherever I was. That call, when I felt so lost and so alone after my freshman year of college, I was a server at Texas Roadhouse, and an adult leader by the name of Ashley had just kind of sporadically, she was doing some work there, and she just said, come back to search. And by the grace of God, I did. And I was welcomed with open arms there. And kind of for much of my life, I was told, you'd make a great priest. But a good friend of mine, Jay Griffin, who's on the adult leadership team, I gave a talk at Search, and he came up to me, and with the most sincerity in his heart, he just had said, Taylen, I think you'd be a great priest. And just years of being active in the Search program, surrendering to God, surrounding myself with good and faithful people has led me to sitting in this chair right now, giving my vocation story. And the desire to go to seminary is just so on fire for me. I'm not, sure where God's leading me and what the next few years of my life will look like. But I know as long as I trust in Him and trust the process and trust in His goodness, that the weight that I'm in right now is so worth it. And praise be God for the men that He chooses to enter the seminary to discern priesthood. Yeah, I mean, if you're somebody out there who is discerning a vocation, no matter what it is, prayer is also always the best thing. That sounds maybe a little cheesy, but it truly is. That's ultimately what I had to do. Speaking specifically to any of the guys out there who are discerning the seminary, my best advice is something that I was told. It's to just be a man, right? Be a man and let God take you where He wants to take you, because He's going to win in the end anyway. And just another piece of advice is to come get to know us seminarians. That was the most eye-opening thing to me, is we're normal people. We live a normal life, but we're just allowing God to take the reins in a different way by our formators, learning how to pray better, and God's going to do the rest. So come meet us, pray about it, continue to just be open. Yeah, this fall I'll be attending Kenrick Glennon Seminary in St. Louis, Missouri. I think the thing I'm most looking forward to is the answers that I'll get to the questions that I don't know. Right now I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing, where I'm going. I've never been to St. Louis before, so I'm excited to see where I'll call home, hopefully for the next several years of my life, and to just learn who God is and the call that He has for my life, surrounded by so many men who have the same desires as I do. The people of the Bismarck Diocese, coming from somebody discerning something so beautiful, I thank you for your beautiful commitment to praying for the office of vocation, praying for our priests, for our religious, our consecrated. Many of those people have such an impact on us, the future people who will be giving sacraments to you someday. And so the prayers are what we need. But just thank you for every smiling face, every handshake, and every time that you've greeted us with a warm welcome. And just thank you for the prayers. We ask for more.